Mr. Marcus, thank you for your appearance and your testimony. Your CEO, in testimony before Congress, referred to Silicon Valley as an extremely left-wing place. That's why so many center-right voices have concerns about censorship on platforms like Facebook, but also Twitter and Google and so forth. I worry about the possibility that a digital wallet and digital currency like Libra could extend that into the payment system. There is reason to worry about that because Democratic members of this committee have made it a habit of contacting major financial institutions and encouraging them not to do business with, say, gun manufacturers or with government contractors who serve ICE or the Customs and Border Patrol. What safeguards, if any, will Libra have to ensure that you treat on par people with views that may be disfavored in an extremely left-wing place like Silicon Valley?
I appreciate your question, Senator, and you're right that Silicon Valley tends to have a bias, but I want to reaffirm that Facebook is a technology company where ideas across the political spectrum are welcome and treated equally. And as far as Calibra and the Calibra wallet is concerned, we wanted to ensure that people, as long as they have a legitimate use of the product, can do what they want with their money. Of course, there are some restrictions and regulated products, but my commitment to you is we will be thoughtful in writing those policies, and we'll be happy to follow up with you when we get closer to finalizing those policies.
So that doesn't sound like much safeguard to me, other than a commitment before you come into pressure from Democrats. And just wait till tomorrow, till you go before the House Financial Services Committee. If you think the Democrats on this committee have hounded banks, wait until you see what you're in for over there. I mean, how do we know? So a federally licensed firearm dealer wants to sell firearms at a gun show, or maybe a neighbor wants to sell a shotgun to his neighbor, or a Christian baker wants to practice his faith when he bakes his cake, or someone wants to pay a subscription to, say, Breitbart instead of the New York Times. What confidence can people who have center-right views have that Libra is going to be available to them on an equal basis as those who want to shut down gun retailers or shut down oil pipelines or government contractors who are working with immigration and customs enforcement?
Senator, firearms, for instance, are a regulated product. They're already regulated and treated as such on the Facebook platform. And I know it's a complicated issue. And when it comes to writing this policy, again, I'm committing that we will be very thoughtful. I have to say that as far as I'm concerned personally, I believe that we should only get in the way in very exceptional cases and by being thoughtful of getting in the way of people doing what they want with their money as long as it's lawful. But we also need to be thoughtful in how we write those policies.
Well, thank you for that commitment, and I do hope we have transparency, because I assure you, you'll be getting letters from that side of the dais, to say nothing of the House Financial Service Committee Democrats, just like all the major banks on Wall Street have been getting those letters. And for that matter, your own workforce is going to bring that kind of pressure to bear on you as well. Let's shift gears in the time I have left. We've heard a lot of talk about money laundering this morning. It's a big problem. I share the concerns we've heard this morning. Money laundering is typically done by individuals engaged in criminal activities like drug trafficking, human trafficking, and so forth. There's also the question of sanctions. One of the advantages of having the world's reserve currency is that we have the ability to impose extremely effective worldwide sanctions because most, if almost all transactions are dealt with in dollars worldwide. Could you talk a little bit about how Libra would have an impact on the United States dollar as the reserve currency and therefore on the United States government's ability to impose sanctions? This is different from money laundering about individuals. We're talking about sanctions on nation states like, say, Iran, that is developing its own cryptocurrency and cracking down on others specifically to try to avoid sanctions.
Senator, I'm glad you brought this up because I believe that if we don't lead in the space, others will. And the same way that we will end up having two internets and two different infrastructures, we will have two different financial systems and two different financial networks, and one will be out of reach of sanctions that are so effective in enforcing our foreign policy and preserving our national security. And this is why I believe that Libra is an alternative that consumers will have the ability to use with wallets that will de facto enforce the sanctions that are led by our national security apparatus and Treasury. So I actually believe that if we stay put, we're going to be in a situation in 10, 15 years where we're really going to have half of the world that is going to operate on, by the way, a blockchain-based technology that will be out of reach from our national security apparatus.
All right. Thank you.